When the Canucks miss the playoffs again.
When Jim Benning trades away all our picks.
When Goldolden is scratched for the third game in a row. C4 is there. With Sedin-like vision, Horvat's work ethic, and Petey's electric personality. Here comes the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast with Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Powered by Overtime Media.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast. I am Chris at Lightforce, joined in a hot box by Matt Lee at @Mattlee_61 and a Forsyth at @Forsyth03. Not joined by the missing in action Adam Ovanel Carter at AdamFOC, but what a surprise that happens to be. Thankfully, however, we got a much better replacement. The newly announced general manager of the Vancouver Canucks, according to Twitter, Chris Faber, who is at Chris Faber 39.
Yes, you got that right. At Chris Faber 39. I'm waiting for that Twitter purge to come here, and they're going to get rid of all those old Twitter accounts. And then I'm looking for Chris Faber. But for now, Chris Faber 39.
Yeah. So you are, as we just learned, the official general manager. Because I saw it on Twitter today, and apparently you are the guy.
Yeah, that's from young Judd over there. He's a guy that I've met a couple times. He was 14 years old when he came on my podcast. So I think that's the reason I got the GM title, because I had him on my podcast before, and it was really cool. I was not expecting a 14-year-old to know that much about the Vancouver Canucks and the draft, but he blew me away. So, yeah, he did. That was an incredible little thread that he put together.
Yeah, it's like 10 tweets. The only person from our podcast here that made the list is Anna Forsyth, who happens to be like the director of athletic. No, you're
athletic
like
trainer, I think.
Yeah, athletic trainer and like assistant.
I think it's just mainly my reputation for perving on players that got me that job, but I'm
all right, we don't need to drop that word.
Well, former host Clay is the senior director of fan and community engagement, so got to give props to Clay. There are some questionable people in that list. The whole podcast feud that Matt has would probably irritate him knowing some of the names, but we aren't here to talk about that list. We are here actually to talk about the Vancouver Canucks. So first and foremost, welcome. Thank you for joining us in the hot box.
Yeah, you guys sold it well. It is a hot box in here already. I think we're like 2 minutes into this room. And,
he wore the shirt at least. Like he wore a T-shirt, which is a good thing.
I brought a sleeveless one because I told Chris I might bring the sleeveless. I don't want to have to change in here halfway through, but we might have to.
That beard is sick, by the way.
Thank you.
It's the first time we've ever met in person, Chris, and it is blowing me away. It would already be the best GM beard in the NHL.
I think so too. There's a lot of sweat hiding in there, so it's good to have it there, I guess.
Yeah, Matt cannot grow a beard.
This is 3 days right here.
Wow.
I don't want to brag.
Same here.
Chris, we were going to talk to Faber a lot. I'll call him Faber just for the purposes of the podcast. There are now two Chris's in this room.
Which makes it very confusing.
One is enough already, and two is a lot. So we'll call him Faber or Chris Faber, if you will, just for the purposes of the podcast. But we're going to talk a lot about the Vancouver Canucks at the All-Star break, Chris.
Yes, we are. The fact that the Vancouver Canucks are, spoiler alert, top of the Pacific, is just unbelievable. I mean, there was that opportunity to make the five-way tie happen, so the Canucks kind of, did the pooch on that. But first in the Pacific, no one will complain.
Just like everyone thought going into the All-Star break in October, right?
Totally. It's, that Florida road trip, we're like totally going to be first in the Pacific. And the sky was not falling.
What a road trip that was.
So we'll talk a little bit about the week that was. There is the All-Star break, so it's going to be us spitballing about a variety of different topics. With Faber here, we're going to talk a little bit about the Utica Comets.
Yep.
That'll be nice. Considering that now means someone who actually knows what they're talking about has joined us. And I'm, looking directly at the three of us.
Yeah.
The reviews have said as much. Like, if there's a podcast that strives for mediocre, it's us.
Oh, gosh, yeah. We longest running Canucks podcast striving for mediocrity, and we've got the gold star.
Nice.
Unlike a Canucks Conversation that Faber hosts, which is like, trending charts, getting guests, knocking it out of the park.
We just hit number 6 in France. So we're really shooting up.
Well, you know what? You haven't.
That's Russell's family right there.
You haven't made it until you're top of the charts in Moldova, like we are.
Oh, that's right.
And Angola.
Angola, that's right. Moldova and Angola were top of the charts.
Before we get to the first segment, if you will, can we talk about Chris? Like he obviously you come from Vancouver Island first and foremost, and you made the move out to Vancouver. I think it's kind of cool for people to sort of learn a little bit about you behind the scenes, because everyone knows about your insight on Twitter and stuff like that. I think it's kind of cool just to open the discussion talking about if you can talk about it anyway, what the move was to Vancouver and what you're sort of doing out here these days.
Yeah. kind of everything came together. My roommate wanted to move out, and I was thinking, okay, I can get into the first semester of school at BCIT, and I know that's a great school.
Yeah.
You went there as well, and I was excited. I've been loving the classes so far 2 weeks in, taking some journalism, some sports broadcasting, and then the radio arts program in the fall. But I'm just getting used to Vancouver right now. Like, people are always giving me directions, and it's just like, oh, it's this bridge, and then you turn at this highway, and I'm just like, I don't know where anything is. It'd be like if you came to Vancouver Island, I'm like, yeah, turn right at the Rutledge station. Like,
right.
You guys have no idea what I'm talking about, right? Like, that's how I feel right now. I've also been pretty blessed with traffic so far, like the first 2 weeks here.
Oh, give it time.
Yeah, there's no wood to knock on in here, but it's I've been blessed so far in the first 2 weeks because I haven't ran into any Vancouver traffic. Driving downtown, like, it hasn't been that bad so far, but I know it's going to get really bad.
Snow too, so
yeah, I do have a truck, so that helped out quite a bit, driving around a little bit in the snow, but so far I'm really good at getting from Burnaby to Surrey, which is where I'm living right now. I know Highway 1, and that's like about it right now, so I'm doing okay.
Yeah. You're born and raised in Vancouver Island, is that right?
Nanaimo, born and raised, grew up there playing a lot of sports.
Right.
Basically just thought it was a good time to move over here and kind of pursue and take the next step and, get a chance to come to podcasts like this and do this kind of stuff.
I've obviously followed a lot of your work on Twitter and stuff like that. I just want to know, like, we're all here on a podcast, and you have your own podcast as well. What made you sort of try and get into that stuff in the first place?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I've been asked this a lot, and I always bring up your guys' show because when I used to work in a mill in Vancouver Island, and I got so tired of hearing, the Beat 94.5 or whatever other radio station. It was the same 6 or 7 songs, and I wasn't really diving into the Canucks too much. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to start listening to 1040 radio. And I remember the first day I listened to 1040 radio, I heard this Botch rant that was Jason Botch, for people who don't know, and if you don't know, you're an idiot. But Botch just went on this rant, and I was just like, wow, like, this is what sports radio is like? Like, this is unreal. And then from there, I started just kind of following. I grew up with Jackson McDonald, who's the managing editor at Canucks Army. I knew he was a big fan of Real Good Show at the time, which is a podcast. I started listening to them.
Justin Morissette, I think, was on that show.
Justin Morissette, exactly. Now he's with Locked On. And then I kind of just looked for Vancouver podcasts, and you guys popped up. Pucks on Net popped up, and that was kind of my weekly routine at the mill. Like, you guys got me through a lot of 12-hour shifts at Western Forest Products, because I would just sit there, and, it was kind of funny. Like, if you guys go on a good rant, I'd be sitting there maybe chuckling, and people just look at me like I'm crazy. But podcasts definitely helped me getting through 40-hour work weeks at the mill when all I do is stand in one spot and press one button and watch wood go by.
Right. Well, you know what? I mean, I think we would all sort of say this, but it's really awesome that, we've played maybe even a tiny part of
Big
you
part,
in
you
terms
guys
of.
I've listened to you guys.
Well, that's very
for a long
humbling
time.
for us,
Thanks.
Chris. I mean, like, we do this show for fun. We obviously don't do it for the big bucks or anything like that. But
what are you talking about? I'm here to get bank.
This guy. But, like, honestly, it is really cool that you're sort of starting to launch your own career in this industry, and we're so excited to see where you're going to go in this industry as well. We all think that you got a really bright future. So it's awesome that you've moved out to Vancouver to take that step. And again, like, we're really excited for the steps that you're going to take going forward as well, because everyone knows that you've got a lot of insight, and we're looking forward for you having that here on this podcast today.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it.
So the Vancouver Canucks had an interesting end to their road trip, only to come home and have an interesting game. I guess a good way to position it.
We're talking about the Arizona game first, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
that game sucked from
was fun.
from an
I was there.
entertainment point of view. It was not the best. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
It felt like one of those classic Arizona games where it's like, which one of us is going to lull the other to sleep until we win?
Dries the desert.
That's a good way of putting it.
It's a very good Tuesday Arizona game.
Oh.
Those are like, they've improved over the past couple of years, but that was kind of like a throwback to what we've seen for a while.
Jacob Markstrom, obviously, you guys stealing that one for the Vancouver Canucks. I felt like, how many games can we count that Jacob Markstrom has stolen games for the Vancouver Canucks this year?
All of them, except when he doesn't, and the Canucks
doesn't?
lose.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anyway, like, what were you guys' sort of thoughts on that game overall?
Well, I was there, and it wasn't dry for me, let me tell you that. Yeah,
you were dropping $19 on Wobbly Pops.
On Wobbly Pops, on alcoholic adult beverages. Hence why I did not shotgun. I mean, I never do, because I'm too old for that. But, I know it wasn't the most exciting game, but for Canucks to make fewer defensive errors throughout a 60-minute effort was, like, comforting in a way. And I was kind of shocked we held on.
Well, I mean, result aside, you look at Vancouver and Winnipeg, and it's as if they decided, yeah, we're not going to really do much outside to get through the 60 minutes here because we've got a couple of games at home. So we could say, well, hey, the Vancouver Canucks got a win against Arizona. They needed that after that performance against the Jets. But there was nothing about that performance against the Coyotes that kind of had me thinking, oh, well, they totally learned lessons and turned a corner here.
Yeah, it was almost like they played a better game against the Jets. I mean, they fired a ton of shots that night. Like you mentioned, Jacob Markstrom stood on his head, got them a win. It seems like wins this year either come from 5 goals from the Canucks or Jacob Markstrom standing on his head. And the fact that we're getting a lot of wins out of Jacob Markstrom doing that is just incredible because, I mean, Elias Pettersson could win games for you single-handedly last year, and now Jacob Markstrom could do it, and that's something that we didn't see over the past couple of years.
I can't believe it's been 60 whole seconds that we've been talking about the Canucks win against Arizona, and we're not going to talk about the guy who really won the game, Louis Eriksson for the Vancouver Canucks.
You'd think he's playing for a contract with the hustle we saw from him.
You know, I did you guys see this post that the Canucks posted the morning after where they had like the most epic music on Louis Eriksson's hustle on that empty netter? And I think it was at Vanessa Jang, and she put like the Flight of the Valkyries or something like that on that Eriksson goal, and it was like you'd think that it was like the King of England that was like, you know, motivating the Canucks to that win.
We don't have a king, but yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know how the royal situation works these days. There's too many people moving to Canada.
Yeah, I did think that was odd. It's like the Canucks are just trying to convince us that there's something there when...
It's like they knew that Louis Eriksson is the most polarizing figure, and they're
well,
like, hey,
no,
let's throw this on Twitter and see what kind of reaction we'll get.
Taking this off the rails, I think the Canucks have started to realize how they can embrace the meta. Team like that, how long did it take before they start pumping out, jerseys?
Louis like that?
And they were on, who knows? Maybe there'll be a Louis like that. But the point being is I think Canucks marketing has kind of figured out they can have a little fun and they can take risks.
Yeah.
I actually believe them sharing that of Louis is seeing what Canucks fans everywhere, Canucks Twitter, whatever you want to call it, oh my goodness, what the heck? Where'd that Louis come from? And you know what? Let's ride the coattails of the clout that's being generated from it, and then from there, Flight of the Valkyries. And
Faber, I'll ask you this one. I mean, you're the one. You see all the Louis talk on social media, and you've been there since day one, really, since he came to Vancouver. What is your impression sort of been of Louis, let's say over the last few weeks? Because he's obviously getting asked to play a bigger role in the Vancouver Canucks on that second line with Pearson and Horvat, and we're starting to see a little bit of success from Louis Eriksson. Are you buying into it, or is this like a flash in the pan?
Yeah, Canucks Twitter is one thing, but if you go on Canucks Reddit and you see the stuff that they're posting about Louis, it's absolutely hilarious. I was actually just down at the equipment sale down at Rogers Arena, and I was looking at all these broken stick section. I'm like, I'm going to get a broken stick. So I'm looking at all of them. They're all snapped. The blades are all sideways. There's big cracks everywhere. And then there's one, and I'm like, oh, that stick doesn't even look broken. And I pick it up and look at the name, and it's L. Eriksson.
Nice.
And I'm just like, no way. Like, how perfect is this? This is in the broken stick section. But yeah, I think that second line is different than we see second lines of in the past, because you see second lines in the past. It's normally your first line's a scoring line, your second line's a scoring line, third line's a checking line, the fourth line is a fourth line. But what we're seeing is kind of the second and third line swapped. Like the line of Gaudette, Virtanen, or Besser, and then Roussel, that line seems to be more of, intend on scoring quite a bit, not really playing a two-way game. But when you have Bo Horvat as the center on your second line, he is matching up against the best lines in every other team. So Louis actually kind of fits, and that's so weird to say that he fits on the top six line, but that line doesn't really play like a typical top six line, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think any of us are going to complain about it. Like, this is a way for Travis Green to get Louis Eriksson involved on the team. I mean, I think a lot of us would have given up Louis Eriksson at the start of the season for just about anything. There was talk about the Vancouver Canucks just waiving Louis Eriksson just to free up a roster spot in $1 million, and yet suddenly here we are with Louis Eriksson, perhaps the best face turn, I guess, to use a WWE turn in history. Like, he's gone from a number one public enemy number one to maybe like a bit of a favorite.
Yeah, I think.
Am I drinking the Kool-Aid?
Yeah, I would say slow your roll, Matt. Like, what Bo Horvat does best is shut down lines and like do the tough matchups, and like somehow the tough matchup is now on his line. So I think it's just another tough job for Bo Horvat that he's doing well. Maybe without Levo in the lineup, this is our best option. But I think all we're looking at now is Louis not actively damaging the team.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, what he's doing right now, it's like, okay, thank goodness. That's sort of the perception. This is not Stone Cold Steve Austin saving Stephanie McMahon from The Undertaker, face turn.
No idea what that means.
Attitude Era WWE. Those who get it. Those who don't.
I just saw my first live wrestling at the ECCW.
On the weekend? Yeah, that was
absolutely
good.
Awesome. I was worried about my voice for this one, actually, because I didn't know any of the chants, but just, getting along with the live wrestling was unreal. I loved it.
Off the wrestling, I'm surprised Anna isn't into, live event wrestling.
I don't like people hurting each other. I'm a nice
It's
girl.
not real, Anna.
No, I don't know. Just, I don't like MMA, don't like boxing. Wrestling is... more entertaining than the other two, but
No, and that's what it's the entertainment value. It's just
but the end goal is quote unquote hurting
fair,
people.
it's the environment seems to be more your thing.
Because it's theatrical.
Yeah.
I mean, I admire the writing, the storylines, whatever. That's cool. But.
All right, let's bring it back on the rails, Chris.
I'm sorry, I haven't had
WWE show in February, by the way, for those wondering.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to certainly complain about Louis Eriksson finding some measure of usefulness on this Canucks roster, though, Chris.
No. I believe
you got to take the wins where you can get them.
Sure, and has he been providing us far more than we expected? Sure. I mean, was it only a couple episodes ago I brought up Louis Eriksson as being the biggest surprise? Far exceeding expectations, because what were our expectations? Anything save for a contract hit on the Canucks bottom line was good. We could have put a pair of skates and some hockey pucks on the ice, and people are like, yeah, it'd have been better than Louis Eriksson. So now we're getting some adequate game time out of him.
So I don't think anyone here is realistically expecting Louis Eriksson's quote-unquote resurgent season to continue, but if the Canucks can find ways for Louis Eriksson to be involved, to not damage the roster, I think that's at least a welcomed addition on this team, right?
Yeah, it seems like if he's going to be matching up and playing that two-way game, if he's effective in this role, use him in this role, because he's not really effective on a fourth line, unfortunately, because it seems to just kind of fade into nothing in a game. And he's not going to be on the first line. He's not going to be on that young gun third line. This is the only spot right now. And if he succeeds in there, that's fine. But like you mentioned, when Josh Levo comes back, he's probably a better option there. Then what do you do with Louis Eriksson, right?
How much of the credit for Louis Eriksson goes to Travis Green trying to give him that opportunity? Or is it just Travis Green maybe just getting lucky and,
I would suggest it's Travis Green getting lucky. I mean,
throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah, I mean, conceptually, Louis Eriksson in the press box and bringing someone up from Utica, while maybe from a development perspective we'd appreciate that, we're still sitting $7 million in the press box to munch on popcorn. If we can get any form of value from Louis, that's a win. So, to credit Travis Green, maybe there is something behind the scenes. He's somehow figured out the mystery that is Louis, but I actually think it's just a matter of Louis actually getting in quality gameplay, and the team is benefiting from it.
All right, so we'll move on past the Arizona game. We'll talk about the Vancouver Canucks' big win on Hockey Night in Canada, 4-1 over the San Jose Sharks. Any big takeaways that you really thought from that one, Chris?
I was at ECCW, so I missed
That's
most of that
okay.
game. I watched it after.
Good excuse.
Yeah, it was a good excuse. I had a blast there. And just, Steven Wyatt and the Bowman and the guys from TTP show. I ran into Jay Swing. Those guys were all there putting on an awesome show. But I did come back and watch some of it.
You saw the Louis Eriksson goal.
Well, that's the thing. I do my Canucks first contest every game. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and then I finally get that update from Canucks, and it's just like Louis Eriksson. I'm like,
how many of them had Louis Eriksson?
Well, that's the good thing. If it's like a Louis or like a Zach McEwen or somebody, I love it because I don't have to retweet 15 things really quickly when it's Elias Pettersson or Besser. But there was probably 6 people that had Louis Eriksson, which is pretty damn impressive. People do pick Louis.
The fan base are coming around on Louis Eriksson.
Well, yeah, considering it's usually empty net goals that he scored, the fact that people picked for him for first goal, I'm impressed.
I don't know. I think picking Louis to score the first goal is akin to picking a safety as the first score in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
it happens.
It does, but you're looking for payout.
You would have got some good money if you bet on Louis Eriksson to score the first goal of that game. Yeah. I think
the thing that I took from that game though is how it was either a combination of the Vancouver Canucks playing out of their mind, or the Sharks having absolutely no ability to control a puck if their life depended on it. At one point, I think it was that they had 7 shots through 2 periods.
Well, how much of that comes from Logan Couture being out of the lineup too, as well?
Okay, but are the Canucks that good that a team like the Sharks can't? Defense is often optional when you throw on the Vancouver Orcas. So, although maybe that was the situation, didn't have the Orca. They're playing with the stick
saved
and rink.
by the heritage jerseys.
Yeah.
One of the takeaways I had from this game, I felt like I noticed Jake Virtanen every time he was out there. He's getting an opportunity on that top line with JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, getting some power play time as well. He had 2 points on the night. Faber, for you, I mean, where have you sort of stood on Jake Virtanen this year? It does seem like, a lot of people saying that he cannot stay on this kind of pace that he is currently on, but here he is, and he's still being productive heading into the All-Star break.
Yeah, I just recently wrote an article about this, and I think I wrote like a month ago for Canucks Army, and I just keep retweeting it every 2 weeks because I'm just like taking my victory lap right now, because I love him in that role when he's playing with Pettersson and JT Miller. I think it's great. I think it's a good mix because, Brock Besser, obviously, he can bring a lot to a game, but it's nice to have Brock Besser as like the key point of the line. Like, he should be the best player on the line, and he's just not when he's with JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. Jake, it's awesome because you just put him out there. You say, Jake, put your head down, skate towards the net, skate as fast as you can, do some hitting, bring something to this line that we don't really have when Brock Besser's there, and he's been able to do that. And if you look at some of the numbers that he's been able to do lately, like his shooting percentage when he's on the ice with Adam Gaudette is something like 8%, which is very sustainable. People are saying that the way Jake Virtanen's playing right now isn't sustainable, but the work that he's been doing on that third line, their PDO basically matches exactly 1. I think it's like 1.001. And for people who don't know what that is, it's shooting percentage plus save percentage. It's basically a measure of luck. And if you're sitting at 1, you're not getting lucky, you're not getting unlucky. So this is sustainable, what we're seeing from Jake Virtanen right now.
How happy have you sort of been with the current makeup of the lines? You've mentioned Virtanen's success on that first line. You're seeing Pearson, Horvat, and Eriksson, which we previously discussed, and then we're seeing that third line with Gaudette, Roussel, and Besser. Like it does seem like there is some concreteness, if that's a word, with the top 3 lines here. That there is some sort of staying power, if you will, with these top 3 lines.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can even bring in the special teams groups with that as well. You see what the second unit does compared to the first unit, but if you just want to talk about the 5-on-5 lines, it's the fourth line is going to be the fourth line. They're not going to do anything in the offensive zone. They're going to cross center and dump the puck in. Third line has an opportunity to score goals. You could call them streaky, you could call them not streaky, but like I mentioned, it's pretty sustainable with their shooting percentage that they have on that third line. Second line's going to do what Bo Horvat does. He's going to play a ton of minutes. They're going to try and shut down the top line, and then we see what's going on with the first line. The Lotto line you don't even really need to talk about. They're going to score goals for you. And yeah, like, when have we seen 4 lines that you're okay with? Like, it seems like I've listened to you guys for a long time. Everybody's whining about a line at some point. And I think last week I remember hearing you guys be like, oh, this is actually some lines that I can get down with.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved watching the Lotto line, but I think there's nothing wrong with, like, moving around, and I don't see any reason to go back to that right now. Like, Jake's actually comfortable right now. I mean, talk about a redemption season. That's Jake. Remember where he was at the beginning of the season? Like, sitting out at camp. Like, so I think with the clarity of role that he's gotten this season compared to previous seasons, yeah, he's just thrived on that. So, yeah, while I enjoy watching, like, Petey and Brock play together, I think they will play together again at some point this season. Yeah, I'm in no rush to switch them back.
Quinn Hughes scoring his 5th of the season, I believe, in that game as well. I missed it today being Monday as well, but there seemed to be some sort of talk on Twitter about Quinn Hughes and some sort of other NHL fan bases talking about Quinn Hughes as well. Is this
the Hughes versus McCarr debate?
Is that what this was today?
Yeah, I saw my guy AJ Hafley from Denver Sports, who I'm actually going to be working with in the summer here, doing some stuff with the Vancouver Giants and Bowen Byram. I saw him put out that tweet, and that was the one that kind of got Canucks fans all wild out because I think, Cale Makar has 11 goals, like you mentioned. Quinn Hughes only has 5. He has more assists. But if you look at the strict numbers and you look at goals, assists, and points, yeah, Cale Makar is better. He's a year older,
right?
And he's not playing as many minutes as Quinn Hughes. He's not running the first power play unit like we're seeing Quinn Hughes do. And I think I saw Biz Nasty put out the tweet as well. Just like, when have I seen a rookie do that? When have you seen a rookie defenseman do something like this? And it was like, dude, you were just at a Canucks game last week. Like, you just saw Quinn Hughes.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Wyatt Arn, friend of the show, brought up a good point where he's like, it's like 2011 all over again, where other NHL fan bases are crapping on the Vancouver Canucks all over again. So it does seem to be like one of those welcome to the NHL type of moments where the Canucks are actually coming back into relevance with the NHL, where they had previously been afterthoughts. But it does seem like the Canucks are getting noticed by the other NHL fan bases, and now we're seeing Quinn Hughes obviously going to the All-Star game as well. There's a lot of fans out there that are noticing the kind of waves that the Vancouver Canucks are making. One other thing I want to get to before we take a break, obviously the Vancouver Canucks woke up today as leaders of the Pacific Division, Faber, and I don't know, I mean, we were talking about this before the show, but like, I don't think any of us really saw it coming in October that the Canucks were going to be atop the Pacific. Have you sort of come to a conclusion on where the Canucks are going to end up at the end of the season, or is it still a bit of a coin flip for you?
Yeah, I still think it's a coin flip just from how close the Pacific is. The Canucks have been very lucky that they haven't had a top 6 guy go down to injury. Aside from the Alex Edler injury, there hasn't been a top 4 defenseman. injuries are going to happen in Vancouver. It happens every single year. This year, it doesn't seem to be happening, so maybe we just keep riding this wave, and maybe this young core has kind of cleared out some of the older guys that we saw get injured every year in our top six. So I still do think this is a playoff team. I've been saying it since the start. I think they made enough improvements in the offseason. I think they added the right players to make a push for a playoff spot. I don't know if it was the right timing to add these type of players and do this playoff push, but they did do it already. They have enough talent on this team to be a playoff team, and if Markstrom can be the MVP of this team in the second half like he's been in the first half, there's no reason to say they're not a playoff team.
Right, fair enough. And I think there are a few people on Twitter that mention Canucks have I believe they have a 5-game road trip coming out of the All-Star break. Then they've got a lot of home games and a somewhat relatively easy schedule going the rest of the way. There is like a clear path for the Vancouver Canucks to make the playoffs. It's in their court, but obviously it depends on things such as health and being able to stay afloat despite potential injuries that might come.
Yeah, I mean, Tanev hasn't gone down yet, so...
All right, now you just...
Sorry, I jinxed it.
He's probably in Cobble right now, tripping over a bottle or something like that.
So, actually, on that note, are we going to see any pictures of players down having a
grand old time?
Like Louis Eriksson?
Maybe on a boat with a cooler full of who knows what?
Wasn't that last year that we saw like there were a few Canucks that went out to like Mexico or something like that?
Yeah. I think.
Oh, that was last year, right?
Chris is referring
to.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was last year or the season before, but it definitely occurred, and it wasn't good optics at the time.
Can I just say, like, everyone in North America needs to just chill out about stuff like that. Like, it's just, if you look at a sport like cricket, it's just so much more relaxed about like players having fun. Like, a game finishes and like cameras will be in the dressing room with beers everywhere. Like, it's just very like accepted that
the NHL used to be, it would be beers
done.
And cigarettes.
Right. But it's just like, you need to cut players some slack. They have a week off. Like, let them have fun.
Yeah, I saw Jake Virtanen's down there with Ben Hutton, so it was nice seeing those boys kind of link up again. That I also did notice.
I was too much trouble there.
Yeah, seeing Jeff Patterson is in the same resort as a lot of these Canucks down there in Cabo.
Oh, really?
So I just thought that was so perfect.
So how much of that is J-Pat just lucking out, or is that J-Pat with an eye to be there?
Yeah, I think he talks to these guys a lot. I don't know if he's planning trips with them, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out drinking one night with Ben Hutton and Jake Virtanen. Like, J-Pat can get down, I'm pretty sure. He might not look like it.
Him first, J-Pat can get down.
Well, I can't. So I can't speak specifically about J-Pat and others, but having been to like the Canucks training camp years ago in I think it was Penticton, it was interesting to see how close the organization and media were outside of sort of the on the record moment. Like I was blown away as a humble podcaster or blogger who at the time probably lived in his mom and dad's basement.
Yeah.
So it's not a stretch to think that they don't talk. Anyhow, Matt, you were probably going to talk to us a little bit about your favorite medium to get all
I had it all queued up, and now you're just going to bring me in cold on that. But I will mention that today's show, Chris, is sponsored by The Athletic. They're a subscription-based sports news site for real fans. You know all about The Athletic. They've got great content coming from Harmondale, coming from Thomas Strands, from Wyatt Arndt here in Vancouver. You can get all that and more, especially across all 4 major professional sports leagues as well. I go there for the NFL content every now and then. When I'm making my bets for the AFC and NFC Championship, I head to The Athletic as well, where I can find out ways to lose money on betting players throughout the AFC and NFC Championship. It didn't go my way. I'm just going to put it that way. But if you're ready to get started with The Athletic, you can get 40% off a yearly subscription to The Athletic by heading to theathletic.com/overtime. That's theathletic.com/overtime. Make sure you check them out for all the things that you need for the Canucks, the NFL, Major League Baseball, Houston Astros cheating scandal, which is the craziest thing I've seen ever, and you can check out more of that stuff.
Want to hear what I thought that was about?
Oh, do I want to know?
Yeah.
Well, did you check go to The Athletic first?
I should have done, because I know nothing about baseball. I presumed the players had got drunk and went out stealing street signs.
Oh, my God. This isn't cricket.
That sounds like a cricket thing, yeah.
Yeah, actually true.
That thing blew my mind whole, by the way, Chris. Like, did you both of you guys sort of
it's still not over. Like we've now seen 2 managers, well, one step down.
Quick off the rails moment, by the way.
The other one got suspended and then
I feel like over the weekend, like I went down like a YouTube rabbit hole with all these like video experts who are like investigating everything from the last 5 or so years about the Houston Astros, and I'm like, look at these conspiracy. I was like that, like wearing the tinfoil hat about how these guys were
But
stealing
they've
signals.
like won stuff already. Like, what do you do with that?
No, but if there's one person on this planet who's sitting here eating their popcorn, Pete Rose.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
I don't think it gets Pete Rose exonerated by any means.
Pete Rose got taken to the cleaners over just betting on sports, I can't imagine what's going to happen to the players, the managers, and ultimately everyone involved in the scandal here, where arguably they cheated to win.
I promise we're going to get to the break, and we're going to get to the next segment. We're going to talk Utica Comets coming up next here with Faber. But let me ask you this quick question. Would you rather win the Stanley Cup and get caught cheating afterwards, or would you just rather not win the Stanley Cup? Let's go with Faber.
That is tough, man. I played baseball like my life. I ended up getting a scholarship out of high school playing baseball, and you cheat every game. Like, whether you would see the signs, and if you're on second base,
You don't have to be this honest, by the way.
I'm not playing anymore. So you would say first name for fastball, you'd say last name for off speed, and you would say that every time. If you're on second base, you were telling that guy that.
Yeah, no. Like if you're on second and you're stealing signs, that's part of the game.
Totally.
It's when you start introducing technology in the other means. That's where I think it's great. But it's there's that saying, if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Yeah. It's baseball.
All right, easy, Eddie Guerrero.
Eddie Guerrero, you got to lie and cheat and steal to win, right? But and look at the Patriots. If Adam was here, he'd be telling you, totally, give me as many Super Bowls as you can.
And all the deflated balls you need.
Exactly. So
I wouldn't do it, though. Like, in the end, you cheat, and it just looks
on
worse,
such
right?
a scale like the Houston Astros did at the Major League Baseball level. It's just crazy to me, and they won a World Series out of it because, well, we don't know if that's how they directly won the World Series, of course, but I don't know. I've had a couple people ask me, would you rather win the Stanley Cup and get caught cheating afterwards, or would you rather just not win?
See, I mean, if you put it like that, I would say definitely not win. But, there are fine lines. Like, you look at Man City in the Premier League, they're basically cheating the financial system, and they're, winning titles. Does that count as cheating?
You're not, well, that's the thing, you're not cheating until someone says you are.
But do you really want, if you're the Vancouver Canucks, do you really want to win the Stanley Cup and have that quote-unquote...
No.
I think 25 more years of not winning the Stanley Cup, this conversation's very different. Like, when we get to 75 instead of 50.
I would win the half season Stanley Cup. I'll still take that. If we had won it on the lockout season, half lockout season, I'll
take two President's trophies instead of the Stanley Cup. No, thank you.
Okay. I mean, think of it. If you're the organization, I don't think you would want the optics. I mean, look at how the rest of the league treats the Vancouver Canucks when the team is actually good and playing within the confines of the game. Imagine a world where the Canucks are, cooking the books, not cheating, but doing things. And the league has shown they'll take the team to task. Exhibit A, Roberto Luongo's contract and the fact that the Vancouver Canucks are
which wasn't cheating at the time.
No, it was defined to be cheating after the fact. Anyhow, don't get me on my soapbox.
As soon as we got on the cap recapture, I knew you were going to take up 5 minutes of time. I'm not going to let you do it.
It'll be a Chris Golden special. I'll just sit here and rant for an hour.
Instead, what we're going to do, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get right into Faber's wheelhouse, talking about the Utica Comets, all the success that they're having down in Utica right now. Coming up next on the C4 podcast, CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
He liked to say the F word.
Well, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't. You, out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
You ever see that scene in Ace Ventura when nature calls and he's in the rhino?
Oh, yes.
That's me
you're
right
thinking
now.
about it right now, yeah.
Let's talk about the Utica Comets. Faber, I know you're on a free Goldie campaign. It seems like you've been a big proponent for Nikolai Goldobin. He's played, I believe, one game for the Vancouver Canucks this year.
I wouldn't even call it one, but yeah.
Even if whatever you call it. I mean, Zach McEwen has obviously had many extended stints here in Vancouver throughout the season, and none of us are really going to say that it's not warranted. But I think you've been a big Goldie guy since day one. Talk about your stance on Goldobin right now.
Yeah. The thing that I like about Nikolai Goldobin is if he's used in the right spot and he's playing with Elias Pettersson, he's a free player to throw into your top six. He might not be the best player to play in that role, but he has success with Elias Pettersson. You can't knock that. He had, some of the highest goals for 60 minutes last year when he's playing with Elias Pettersson. I've talked to both of them at training camp. They both loved playing with each other. They both said the exact same thing when I asked them about it. They said they both play the European style, which is what I like to call the one extra pass style, because it seems like they're looking to get the goalie out of position, then make the other pass, and the goalie's just way out of position. At that point, they can finish. But he does need to learn how to play a tougher game, and he needs to play a two-way game. He does need to learn that. And the problem with him in the AHL right now is he's so skilled compared to the other guys in the AHL. He's probably the best passer on the Utica Comets. You see some of the plays that he makes on the power play unit. He's not really being forced to learn right now in the AHL, and I think that, after this year, when his contract's up, if he's not getting a chance at Vancouver by the end of the year, there's no chance he's coming back. And I do think he gets an opportunity somewhere else. I think he'll be in the NHL. He wants to be in the NHL, but he's not really learning that two-way game in the AHL. You still see him not going hard on back checks, not going hard in the corners, and it's almost like he needs to be at the NHL to learn that. He needs Travis Green to be giving it to him instead of Trent Cull, because he's not really improving in what people need to see him improve on down there.
So is this on Trent Cull, though, or is this more of a Nikolai Goldobin not being motivated to learn that two-way game that the Canucks do want him to learn?
Yeah, I think that he's not really motivated because he's seeing success at the AHL level. When he's down there, I think he's 5th in scoring on the team. Yep. He's in the top 12. The Comets have 5 players in the top 12 of scoring in the AHL, which is unreal to watch. I mean, they're such a fun team to watch this year. It's my first year investing into AHL TV because I wanted to watch Nikolai Goldobin play, and I wanted to make sure I was tweeting out all the GIFs and making sure people could see that with the free Goldie movement. But it's turned into me just loving watching this Comets team. It's awesome. They play on a lot of Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, which are days that the Canucks don't play on a lot. So it's a ton of fun to watch this team. And yeah, Nikolai Goldobin is very impressive in what he's doing down the AHL level. I want to see him be able to do that at the NHL level, but I just don't think he's ever going to learn to do that. So the free Goldie movement is still going hard. I want to see him get an opportunity, but it's going to take an injury right now to get him up there.
I was going to say, does it take an injury in the top 6? Knock on wood, obviously, that it doesn't happen, but does it take an injury to, say, a Brock Besser, say, to a JT Miller for the Canucks to even consider bringing up Nikolai Goldobin? Because it seems like whenever there's an injury to the bottom 6, like we've seen with Brandon Sutter, Antoine Roussel before that, it seems like Zach McEwen's the first one that gets the call.
Yeah, it's Zach McEwen right now, and then even Justin Bailey, who had an incredible play today.
Double hat tricks, right?
Triple. He had 3 hat tricks in 4 games, and today he made a beautiful play with another assist on the power play. He has more power play goals than Reed Boucher, and if you know anything about Reed Boucher, he scores a ton of goals on the power play. So he's actually second in the AHL right now in goals, which is behind Reed Boucher, who's number 1, who I don't know if we'll ever see him again. Though there is a spot for him, I think, in certain spots on this team. But yeah, I mean, there's the coolest thing about the Comets this year that I've noticed is that there's so many options for different spots. So if a guy does go down on the first line, maybe it's Goldie. If a guy goes down on the second line, maybe it's a Justin Bailey or Reed Boucher or a Zach McEwen. We've seen him get an opportunity with Bo Horvat this year. And then third and fourth line guys, they have so many different guys that can fit in there. And, the evolution of Kole Lind, he's knocking on the door too. Yep. I think he's 5th or 6th in scoring on this Comets team. And I think he's been one of the greatest stories to come out of this year with the Comets too.
Sorry, one more thing I'll add. It seems like the only realistic path for the Canucks to even get Goldobin playing on the roster is if he's in a black ace type of role if the Canucks were to make the playoffs and the Utica Comet season was to end.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that seems to be the only realistic path aside from injuries, but I don't know. Anna, sorry, you were about to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I don't see any point to bringing Goldie up, and he's not we've seen him, he can't succeed in the bottom 6, so there's no point bringing him up. Zach McEwen is perfect in that kind of role-playing kind of role. But yeah, I think, what would you say about Justin Bailey? Is it worth bringing him up, or you want to see him stay down and stay in Utica?
Yeah, I don't think Justin Bailey doesn't have to improve on anything right now. Maybe aside from shoring up, the thing is he's 6'4", 230, and he's not really that physical. But he's so damn fast. He moves around guys in the AHL like you see Connor McDavid do in the NHL. I'm not saying that he has speed like Connor McDavid, but even just talking to some guys around the AHL, and I was just on with the Utica guys today on the radio before I came here, and I asked him, I don't sound crazy saying that he's like an AHL Connor McDavid skating. No, he is the fastest player in the AHL. And he's had some NHL time, and that's a cool thing about him is, if Louis wasn't succeeding on the second line, that could be a spot where Justin Bailey could play, but Justin Bailey could also hop in and play on that third line. He kind of fits similar game that we saw Jake Virtanen play and succeed with those guys. Or maybe you want to throw some speed with like a Tyler Mott and a Jay Beagle and Justin Bailey on that fourth line, because Mott's got some pretty good speed. He can skate very well. Justin Bailey can do the same. So that's the thing. Like I mentioned earlier, there's so many different options with this Utica Comets team, and I'm excited to see the next guy get an opportunity. And though it's probably going to take an injury, I mean, the injuries are going to come like we talked about earlier.
Yep. You mentioned Kole Lind. You said he's knocking on the door. We've seen the good steps that Kole Lind has taken in his development this year. How close, realistically, do you see Kole Lind in terms of actually knocking on the door for a roster spot? Does it come as early as next year, or does Kole Lind need maybe another more year of AHL season?
Yeah, I would say if the Canucks were out of a playoff spot, they would need to give him 5, 6, 7 games this year before. Like if they were out of a playoff spot early in, February, March, April kind of time, like we should be seeing Kole Lind. And if a bunch of injuries come, he probably could, but the thing that he had to make such an adjustment from was from junior to professional. We saw him in junior. He's an absolute monster. Like when he's emotionally involved in the game, that's when he's at his best. And he was kind of worried in his first year coming into the AHL.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't
bit of an
really
eye-opening experience.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't throwing a glove in another guy's face. But now that he's had a year and understood that he's like, okay, I'm physically capable of doing it. And I talked to him at training camp, and the best quote I probably got from all of training camp was hearing Kole Lind say he was pissed off. Like all summer long, he was pissed off. Those are his words. Like he wanted to play better. He knew he could play better. And today, they ended up losing 5-2 or 4-2 in that game. But Kole Lind was the best player on that Utica Comets team today. And he does that, a handful of games at least this year.
We got to talk about a couple blue liners, and one of them is obviously he went down with a very tough injury, but Brogan Rafferty, he seemed to get the most hype and the most love from here in Vancouver. He was up there in AHL scoring for a defenseman, right up there with former Vancouver Canucks legend Derek Pouliot and stuff. I don't know. You could probably speak more to this, but like, where is realistically the value on Brogan Rafferty? Is he that good? Is he better than Olli Juolevi? It seems like people are all kinds of different degrees on where they stand with Rafferty.
Yeah, it's interesting because both of them are such opposite players.
Yeah.
Like Olli Juolevi is a guy that's not really going to be on a power play when he's up here in the NHL, but he will be up here in the NHL. If he stays healthy and he can adjust to his body, he will be an NHL player. Brogan Rafferty is kind of similar. Like, though he's 24 years old and he's only a year younger than Troy Stecher, a lot of people are like, maybe we should trade Stecher and bring up Rafferty, but he's just not really proven like Troy Stecher. And you see a lot of these guys in the bottom pairings on NHL teams, they aren't proven players. But, I mean, that happens with every NHL team. You always have a bottom six that doesn't have defensemen that you're really confident in. And if you're going to bring Brogan Rafferty up, he has some skills. Like, he can skate the puck. He's very good at kind of moving the puck up ice single-handedly. Probably needs to work.
Did he score a shorthanded goal, like almost end to end?
Yeah.
I saw that, and
I
was dazzled by it. So sorry, you're going.
And then he was the fact that he can go on a power play unit, and he's a great quarterback on the power play unit. He's got that saucer pass that you love to see. He's kind of just feeding Reed Boucher's on his right side with that one timer. He's got Nikolai Goldobin on his left, so he's got good options on either side of him on the power play. He's playing with skilled guys, and the fact that he can kind of fit in with those skilled players, like Reed Boucher is probably the best guy in the AHL to have in that Petter zone, as some people like to call it, or Area 51. I don't know what side you guys are on for that, but the fact that he can do that with skilled players brings me excitement that, like if he comes up, maybe he's even a better option than a Tyler Myers or an Alex Edler on the second unit. Like, that's a lot to say right now, but if he develops and learns the game a little bit, he definitely has the skills to be a kind of guy that plays, 9 minutes of 5-on-5, but then can contribute a few minutes on your power play.
Right. We'll keep it short, but Olli Juolevi, he's starting to put up points, I guess, in Rafferty's absence as well. How critical is it for his development to just, in general, stay healthy between now and the end of the season and heading into the offseason?
Yeah, that's the only thing that you need to worry about with Olli Juolevi. I mean, he's smart. His breakout passes, you see him make those 150-foot passes from behind his own net up to the other blue line, sending in Nikolai Goldobin or Justin Bailey on these breakaways. And I think that the only thing that you're worried about with Juolevi is because of the surgeries, he's going to have to adjust to his new body, right? I think you hear a lot of athletes talk about that normally when they're later in their career, like, I got to get used to this body of mine. It's not what it was like when I was 20. But it's almost like Juolevi has to adjust to this body that he had when he was like 18, right? Like, he didn't have this body when he was 18. Now he's 21 years old, and he's got to adjust to, a surgery on his knee, a surgery on his hip, on his back. And I mean, that's something that is going to be so hard to overcome, but if you can overcome it, he has the absolute smarts to be an NHL player. The thing that I'm liking with him a lot right now is he's the number one PK guy. He's blocking a ton of shots. The only problem is he kind of reminds me of Alex Edler, which, I'm talking about the negatives of Alex Edler, but I'm also kind of talking about the positives as well. Like when Alex Edler was young, he was moving the puck very well, just like Olli Levy's doing right now. So if he can continue to develop, he's still so young. People need to remember that. And if he continues to develop, it's not even like develop, but he just needs to stay healthy. And I think if he can stay healthy for the rest of this year, we are going to see him next year for sure.
Fair enough. What we're going to do, are you good?
Oh, I'm always good. I'm just
you're
sitting
just
here
sitting,
and
you're enjoying the show, right?
Sitting and learning.
What we'll do is we're going to take a break, but that was great talk about Utica, by the way. It's very heartening to see, like, all the guys. Like, we didn't even talk about the potential of that we could see, like, Nils Hoglander and Tyler Madden playing on this Utica team next year. Like, I don't even know where they're going to find the spots for all these guys, but, like, it's kind of crazy to talk about just how crazy the Canucks have suddenly revamped their farm team, and there's all these young players that are starting to really perform. It's an exciting, like, I might have to get AHL TV next year at this point.
Just even watching the highlights, they're just a fun team to watch.
We didn't even talk about Mikey DiPietro, by the way, as well. Like, he's obviously getting a lot of starts in Utica these days as well.
Yeah, I think he's being trusted more and more, which is good, and I think, like, Backman is taking very much a backseat role in the organization. It seems like Trent Cole's actually doing a pretty good job of investing in the youth. I know we've been pretty concerned over the years with what's going on down there, but they seem like a well-built team right now.
Have you sort of, like, I don't know what the perception is of Trent Cole as a head coach. Like, is he the right guy to be continuing to develop these prospects?
Yeah, I've 100% flopped from what I was saying last year. Like, I
because there was that notion, right? Like, there were a lot of questions going into last year's offseason about Trent Cole's ability to develop the Canucks prospects, and, like, this is a very critical time for the prospects. And you've just said that you've kind of flipped the script on Trent Cole.
Yeah, because Trent Cole was involved with the Syracuse Crunch when he was an assistant coach there. He ran the power play unit, and he was the guy that kept Nikita Kucherov off of the power play unit, and then he just started scoring, like, incredible goals, jumped in the NHL, was a great player right off the bat. But Trent Cole, like, the players like him. The players seem to like playing for him. I've talked to Kole Lind, I think, like 3 times this year. Talked to Zach McEwen a couple times. They really like playing for him. I know every player is just going to say that, but I think at the same time, he's playing these younger players in roles. Gadjevich might not be the best offensive player on this team, but he's getting an opportunity to play on the second power play, and he's getting a chance to kill penalties. The other day, we saw the first penalty kill unit was Reed Boucher and Nikolai Goldobin, because that's what you need to develop if you want to see these guys keep continuing to get back to the NHL. He's playing Mikey DiPietro a ton. McIntyre has been the backup so far. He's played like 21 games. I think DiPietro's at 20 games right now, but that's because DiPietro had that little call-up. Otherwise, he's probably played more games. I'd like to see Mikey play a little bit more, and that's something that I talk with Corey Hergott every week about. Are we going to see Mikey take over and be a real starter? And that I would just love to see, because he's an awesome kid. Like, we see every interview with that kid. He's always smiling. He's a great guy to kind of get behind the mic or get some behind-the-scenes clips of, and I think he's ready. And I think that brings up, like, a huge conversation about the whole goalie situation with the organization, because Mikey is getting better almost every game. It seems like at the start of the year he was flopping and hopefully getting a blocker or glove on it. Now he's kind of calmed himself, and even though he's a smaller goalie, he's very athletic. And he's just, when you see him make some of these saves at the AHL level, you're thinking, like, wow, at 21 years old, that's a pretty exciting goalie right now.
Reminds you of Jonathan Quick a little bit in terms of the athleticism.
I was hoping he was going to throw the old Kluche mask on, and I was like, people would just love Mikey DiPietro if he pulled that off.
What we're going to do, we'll take a break. When we come back, talking about the trade deadline. It's a little more than a month away, and I don't know, are the Canucks buyers? Are they sellers? I don't even know. We'll talk about it next. Coming up, C4 Podcast, CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time, and I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
Mail it in, Matt really needs to update these drops.
actually meant to call you guys out for that when I was coming in here because I listened
now
last
we
week.
gotta
Yeah,
do
I
it.
was gonna say also that
What
reminds
50-point players did you lose, or 100-point players did you lose last year?
I don't know. I'll get around to it at some point.
that Elias is gonna play plenty. That really
gosh.
jarred with me.
Do you
I was
want me
like,
to
oh,
just-
yeah,
I'll
remember
just-
when we were concerned about
I'm
that?
just gonna do a poor hack job and just switch out Elias with Hughes, and we'll just call it a day right there. Let's get right to it. I mean, the trade deadline is around the corner. The Canucks are, currently leading the Pacific Division. I would think most people or most teams that are leading their respective division would say, oh, they should be buyers. But I don't think anyone here is really advocating or banging on the table for the Canucks to sell the proverbial farm to be buyers at the deadline.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say the Canucks are buyers.
Or sellers?
I actually, if the Vancouver Canucks, this trade deadline, did little, it'd be okay. I mean, what is it that we want? We would love for Louis Eriksson to somehow, disappear from the roster. But
that's what this has all been about. We're boosting the trade value.
The only way that happens is the Vancouver Canucks adding something along the lines to incentivize that deal. We don't want the Vancouver Canucks to hold on to any of the contract value. So, I don't know how likely something like that occurs. We don't want the Vancouver Canucks to give up any more draft picks because,
oh my God,
Lord willing, they'll just be giving up the first round draft pick this year. And then from a selling perspective, what else do the Vancouver Canucks have to sell? I mean, do we want them to sell a Markstrom? Or do we want them to sell a Demko? Because, DiPietro is lighting up in the AHL. We're going to re-sign Markstrom, and we're going to, I could see the logic behind that. But at this point in time, I kind of want the Vancouver Canucks to show that this year was where they turned that corner, and then next year they're even better. And okay, you know what? At that point, let's start, making the big deals.
I don't know. I'll let Faber speak on this one, but I would just sort of love to hear his perspective on what the Canucks should be doing at the deadline. I mean, you are the general manager of the Canucks.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
I guess so. I like Chris said, I wouldn't be going out of my way to make the big splash. It's funny that Taylor Hall was going to be the big one at the trade deadline. He's already been moved, so you start to look at some other guys that might be available, but Canucks should probably stay away from the top 15 guys that I would think about that would be getting moved, because like you mentioned, we don't want to trade any more draft picks. We don't want to get rid of guys like Kole Lind or Niels Höglander or some of these prospects that we have coming up. And I think that the Canucks need to think about the long term, even though what they did in the offseason was thinking about the short term. Like obviously Jim Benning needed to make the playoffs this year. Travis Green needed to make the playoffs this year. Otherwise they're really on the hot seat. But as a Canucks organization, they need to really think about, okay, maybe this isn't the time to win right now. Like right now, we're not going to go out and win the Stanley Cup. Probably not. And you can, I guess, make fun of me real hard after this, but I'd love for people to make fun of me saying that right now. But they're not set to go out there and win the Stanley Cup right now. But 2 to 3 years down the road, when you have Podkolzin in the lineup and Höglander in the lineup, and Jet Wu being a bottom guy and Rathbone being a guy that you could see playing, they have a lot of players coming up, and their core is so young. And that's what brings up the goalie situation and makes it so strange, because do you want to go into the playoff and do you want to be your Stanley Cup push with a 33-year-old goalie, or do you want to do it with a 27-year-old Thatcher Demko? And that's the biggest question. And if there's a great offer made for one of these goaltenders, it's going to be real hard to actually make that move, but that might be the big blockbuster move that happens for the Vancouver Canucks, but I don't really see anything happening too big at the trade deadline.
I personally don't see the Canucks moving who we've all sort of unanimously agreed is their MVP in Jacob Markstrom this season, just to get a potential player in the top 6 to help them out. It seems a little more reasonable that Thatcher Demko could be moved for someone that could help right now, but I wouldn't count my bets on that one either. I know a little bit of discussion has been had about maybe throwing Chris Tanev's name out there in terms of a trade. Am I wrong to think maybe Troy Stetcher's name could be out there in a trade as well?
Well, Troy from Richmond's been on the trade block all season long.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's the kind of little move that I would consider. Troy Stecher, he's playing third pairing minutes. He's, could be in and out of the lineup on any given night. We just talked about the, development of guys like Brogan Rafferty who could step in right now if the Canucks really wanted them to. That's a trade where the Canucks could perhaps, quote unquote, sell high on Stecher, or at least get some sort of tangible asset, a project player back in return. Would you guys rather move a Stecher or a Tanev? Where do you guys sort of fall in that category?
Well, I think moving the Tanev would be the smarter play,
but we'd also be selling him not at face value these days.
No, I know, but
but it's is his value going to increase?
But does Tanev help the team
He's
now?
healthy right now. That's good.
I think Chris Tanev helps the team right now, though, as well.
But
and his underlying numbers with Hughes are like some of the best we've seen from Chris Tanev since people actually started talking about him being good.
And on that note, like, you can't discount how much credit Quinn Hughes gives to Chris Tanev for his own development as well. And I think that plays a big role in the Canucks potentially keeping Tanev in the fold.
Yeah, big time. I don't think Quinn Hughes gets to be Quinn Hughes without a player like Tanev.
And I'm not trying to suggest they trade Chris Tanev. I just think out of the two, I mean, that would be the more logical choice, as illogical.
Because your quote-unquote asset management thing, isn't it?
Correct. I mean, Troy from Richmond. You trade Troy from Richmond.
This is why you only got interviewed for the GM job.
I didn't even get interviewed, man.
You got a screen call from HR, and then they're like, "Yeah, let's move on with Faber."
The Troy from Richmond trade is probably, if there is going to be a blue line move, that would be the one that would happen. And then you got Jordy Ben that would slot in if there's nothing else that comes back. I think there's reason there. The area that I'm actually curious: the Vancouver Canucks, according to Cap Friendly, as of today, have $2.8 million of potential cap space. And they have some contract room.
Mm-hmm.
Might this be the season where we witness the Vancouver Canucks truly weaponize? I know it's not a whole lot of cap space, but weaponize it in such a way that they know they're not going to be the Stanley Cup contender this season. There might be another team out there that needs the wiggle room who can, and the Vancouver Canucks are like, yeah, well, maybe take this bad deal on for the rest of the season and we'll be good.
I've seen a lot of discussion about Stetcher to Toronto. I know the Toronto Maple Leafs have had some injuries to their blue line as well, and it does seem like on paper there's a fit there. Toronto has also been kind of closer to the cap as a result these days. I don't know if there's a deal to be made, but that seems to be a situation where the Canucks could trade Stetcher, take on money back in return.
Yeah, I guess also the problem is what the organization views how the organization views itself, because we're here saying that Benning probably needs to make the playoffs to save his job, whereas we don't want to, I would think I would like to make the playoffs, but if we don't, it's not the end of the world. We keep our first round pick.
Well, for this draft,
yeah,
and I mean, it's not going to be. It's a lottery pick, but it's likely not going. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe that's what the Canucks have been doing wrong all along, is getting such great odds that they fall out of favor.
But yeah, it won't be a good lottery pick, but it's a very good draft.
But if you look at the Vancouver Canucks, a status quo Canucks probably still has a really good chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Even if there are other teams in the Pacific that start to make a splash, just with how the Pacific is currently. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not entirely sure I'm as keen with the Canucks being buyers. I would be more worried excuse me, if they perceive themselves as, oh yeah, we've got a shot, we're gonna go all
That's
in,
the problem,
right?
yeah.
If it does go to the point like, oh, is Jim Benning thinking, yeah, I need to do this, or maybe it's a pressure from up, we don't know. Therein lie the worries. But back to my original point, if they don't do anything, I'm actually kind of happy with that. It's probably the first season I could even say
don't
I would
do
also be all right with that.
Is my motto going into the trade deadline, I think.
I hope Jim has that bumper sticker.
Can we just unplug his phones for the day or something? Maintenance work, and we'll come in with gray jumpsuits.
Off the rails here. I haven't seen a Benning on Empty comic in a while.
I thought they stopped doing those.
Did they? I don't know. I mean, they were.
I think he had one a month ago. They get a Christmas special.
Okay.
But before that, he hasn't done it in a long time. I talk with Yerke quite a bit, just in the DMs and stuff. It's, Benning on Empty is pretty funny. But the one that I haven't seen him forever was the guy who was doing the face thing with Jim Benning. I haven't seen that forever.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Those were good. Those videos were.
The filters, right?
He was good.
Yeah, that was good.
But I wanted to talk about the one that might shock people, but I think is, as much as Troy Stetcher might get traded, I think Thatcher Demko's in the same spot, because we saw what Thatcher Demko's agent and group did last year with Anders Nielsen. They were the ones that got Anders Nielsen's traded. They think that Thatcher Demko is going to be a starter in the NHL. And I think that if Jager Markstrom was given the extension today, I think that Thatcher Demko would be gone at the trade deadline, because he wants to go be a starter somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the teams that are, not really in great spots, that are out of playoff positioning. They all need goaltenders. And Thatcher Demko at 24 years old right now is a great guy to kind of say, let's try you as our franchise goalie and see what happens.
So if a team came around at the trade deadline, Faber, and offered, let's say that similar Schneider for a first deal, would you take that in a heartbeat if you're the Vancouver Canucks?
Oh, yeah. If it was similar to what we traded for Schneider, I would. If you're getting
a top 10
if you're
pick,
seeing a team that's not in the playoffs right now and they're giving you a first-round pick, and you're the Vancouver Canucks who don't have a first-round pick in this year or next year's draft, and you can get that that back for something you spent on in the second round.
Like,
a couple years
let's
ago?
remember those infamous words from Benning when they made that deal in the first place for JT Miller. He said, "You never know what we could do to try and recoup that first round pick via trade on our team." Yeah. And I think that's lingering in the back of Jim's mind because, like, everyone talked about how why would you trade your first round pick when you're so good at drafting in the first round? It does make sense if the Vancouver Canucks were to get offered a first round pick to recoup that first. To possibly move on, and it solves the expansion problem.
Is Demko worth is there a team out there that would offer a first for Demko? Like with Schneider, we had at the time a proven commodity.
So let's have that debate though. Where is Thatcher Demko's current value relative to what Schneider's value was in 2013?
I mean, it's lower.
Is it lower?
Schneider was like the starter on the team. And then everyone thought he was the future of the team until they went out to Florida and said, "Hey, Louis, you want to start for our team instead?"
I believe it was Francesco that went out to Florida.
Yeah.
Let's get it correct here.
I just said they.
Well, it was Francesco.
Okay.
Himself.
I think the interesting
the
thing
family.
is if you look at the age difference too, like I think Corey Schneider was maybe 25, 26. You guys might be able to correct me here. When he was traded, Thatcher Demko was 24. But if you look at their numbers and what they did through college, through AHL, and through NHL, it is so similar. Yeah. And I was asked this question the other day, like how similar is it to the Luongo-Schneider situation? And it seems weird, like talking down about Jacob Markstrom, but Jacob Markstrom is a poor man's Luongo in this spot. But man, Corey Schneider and Thatcher Demko are
I'm telling you,
similar.
there are parallels between the two and
there
the value.
Are, but they're just... Demko doesn't have the same experience.
No, it's the body of work.
Yeah.
Like, sure. When Schneider was traded for just that New Jersey first round pick, there were many people on this side of the continent who are like, whoa, the Canucks got fleeced.
Huh.
If Demko got
you remember that I remember that day like it was yesterday. Pierre Maguire himself said on that draft day that he was surprised the Canucks did not squeeze more out of New Jersey.
And the talk was that Edmonton was like
they offered like a first, like and a prospect and all that stuff.
We look back now, we're like, oh, thank goodness.
Like I just think that like there's a case to be made that Demko is worth a top 10 pick.
I think you're banking on talent rather than...
Yeah. He has another year, right? Like he's under contract for another year, so I think this conversation next year at the draft is even more interesting.
Sure.
Because,
yeah, for sure.
But it does put them in an interesting spot because they'll have Markstrom locked up next year at this time, right?
And it'll depend how those conversations go because none of us are expecting like Markstrom to be the starter throughout his whole extension, whatever that may be. And Demko's definitely not sticking around if they're hoping for that.
Well,
but yeah, like we imagine if he gets like 4 years that Demko, if he's still there, will be the starter by like year 3 of that, right?
The asterisk though is I think this Faber brought up the point. The moment a Markstrom signature occurs, that's when the entire environment changes. There's no way that the Vancouver Canucks, even if they think, oh yeah, Jacob's totally going to re-sign, that they go and they trade Demko because that there's just too much uncertainty. And on top of that, Markstrom suddenly, oh, well, cool, I just got a little extra negotiating clout because...
Well, I was going to say, couldn't you make the case that the Canucks should trade Demko before they sign Markstrom to the extension? Because once you sign Markstrom to an extension, you have less leverage to try and trade Thatcher Demko.
Well,
but then you have less leverage.
Because teams know that you're saddled to Markstrom.
You're right. There's leverage one side or the other. But I think if you sign Markstrom, the Vancouver Canucks maybe lose a little leverage on the Demko side.
Yep.
But for the Vancouver Canucks' sake, we've got this DiPietro kid that we're confident. Like we have sort of this go-to. If the Vancouver Canucks were to trade Demko, Markstrom suddenly has some negotiating clout that we're talking pennies to the dollar here. But if he chooses to explore free agency.
Yeah, because what are the Canucks going to do? Start DiPietro? Like,
we would actually, if Markstrom were to walk and there's no Demko,
Faber's high on DiPietro, and therefore I'm high on DiPietro.
Yeah, but the same thing, like you don't bring DiPietro to be your backup right now, and that's another part of this whole situation. Because if you do trade Demko, you probably need to make a trade for I always bring up Antti Raanta because it seems like he's always the guy
just
who gets
that perennial good
35.
guy backup. Andrew Raycroft. Let's get one of those out here, right?
And that's the part that you need to make if you're going to trade Thatcher Demko. And I'm not saying this is likely to happen. I'm not saying it's likely that Stetcher gets traded as well. But out of every big player on this team that would possibly get moved, it's Thatcher Demko and it's Troy Stecher, because the organization wants to sign Jacob Markstrom, the organization wants to sign Chris Tanev. And those are two players ahead of both those two on the depth chart, and that makes sense for you to make a trade and maybe sell high in this spot.
I'm just going to say, I think Elliot Friedman put in 31 Thoughts that the Leafs kicked tires on Alexander Georgiev from the New York Rangers, and they also want a right-side defenseman. Let me think of a team that has a right-side defenseman as well as a top-level goaltender available that could be on the market. I don't know. I'm just saying that it's a possibility. I'm not saying it happens, but there are some tea leaves in there to suggest that the Canucks could maybe find a trading partner in Toronto.
Just use the Columbus method.
Oh, yeah.
Bring in two goaltenders no one has ever heard of and can't pronounce their names of, and just,
don't you dare besmirch the good name of Elvis Merzlikins, all right?
That's why trading goalies can be good for you moving forward. Like you mentioned, look at how much crap the Canucks got when they traded Corey Schneider. And he didn't really turn out to be the guy that we thought. Maybe Demko's the same, though he has improved every year. He's gotten better at every league that he's played in. You just don't know with goalies. So if you do have an offer that comes to you and it's like, this is going to really help us in the future here, and we are just going to invest in Jacob Markstrom and hope that, when he's 33, 34, 35, he's still holding
performing,
up, then I would make that move, because it's going to help you. Like Jim Benning and Judd Brackett and that crew has done a great job with especially their top 90 picks. Even their later round picks, but I would think that you would get a top 90 pick for a guy like Thatcher Demko, and maybe that is something that helps the team depth wise down the road.
Yep. Couple things before we wrap things up here on the C4 podcast, Chris. Obviously, the All-Star break happening. Also on Instagram, Bo Horvat announcing that there's a baby Horvat on the way.
Yeah, I can't believe we didn't get that news first.
The Dad Lee texted me right away asking if he'd be named Godfather.
I think he should. I mean, they're as thick as thieves.
It's fatherhood for Bo. Why am I not surprised, by the way, that it's they're already expecting a new bundle of joy? By the way, how they announced it too with Gus.
I was going to get into the Instagram thing. Have you noticed, like with Bo Horvat's Instagram account, like every announcement is really like well planned, like the whole proposal with like the horse in the background.
There's lighting for sure.
Yeah. It's like in stage. This one, it's the whole what's the dog's name?
Gus. Come on, man.
I'm so sorry.
You're supposed to know these things.
He's the first dog of Vancouver.
He's got his own Instagram too.
I don't follow. I barely follow the hockey team, let alone the players' pets accounts.
Well, he's on quite the dad trip right now, because you look at what all the other guys doing in Cabo, and even
he's in Disney
Cabo.
Rocking like a Disney sweater.
Exactly, he's with Tanner Pearson.
Yeah, he's
Disneyland.
Talk about very good old American fun right there for Bo Horvat and Tanner Pearson. Just a good old trip to Disneyland will cure you what ails you during the All-Star break.
I have something to admit. I have never been to Disneyland.
No one cares.
I've never been to
Disney
parks.
Anything, yeah.
I've been twice, and I didn't. The first time I remember going when I was like 5 or 6 years old, and there was that, I forget which Disney movie it's from, but it was like some big dragon type thing with like 8 heads, and one of them came down, and I grabbed some person's leg. I thought it was my mom, and it was some random lady. And my dad has all this on video, and it's hilarious. The lady's just like, "Oh, like it's okay." I was 5 years old. Then I went when I was 16. And we went there for New Year's. All my friends are going out back home, and I was just like, I'm stuck at Disney World on New Year's, and it was
that's a weird choice.
Yeah, I was not happy, but we did like a big drive down the California coast and ended up there.
Done that.
It was fun, and then I think we went to Vegas. That was even worse. Being 16 years old in Vegas.
I was 18 in Vegas. It was rough.
It's the worst.
I don't know. I'm just gonna say, like, if you ever were gonna take Baby Force to Disneyland, it's like now's the time. They got all the Star Wars stuff happening over there these days. It's like they've really revamped that area.
Do you actually think I would have an opportunity to check out any of the Star Wars stuff with Baby Force?
I'm just saying, there's the possibility
be stalking Minnie Mouse all day long. Everything is Minnie Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Minnie Mouse.
Mrs. Lightforce can take her, and then you could check out the Star Wars stuff.
Oh yeah, like that would totally happen.
Yeah.
You're not married, Matt, are you?
No,
you can tell.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's still under review, right?
Look, we got a good goal over there. Okay, it's Wes McCauley pointed to center. She already said yes. All right, It's a good goal. You can't take it back. Okay.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Wait until the league office.
There's no coach's challenge. Okay, don't worry.
Melissa, if you're out there, you can absolutely take it back.
On that note, thanks, Anna. Faber, thank you so much for coming in. We're awesome to have you. Hoping to get you back on for a future episode down the line, maybe before the end of the season. But it was awesome to have you in here. We could talk for like hours more, but I think it's like 100 degrees right now in the hot box. So he's like 5 more degrees away from getting heat stroke like the rest of us. So, Chris, You wanna do the thing where they can find us?
Well, see, I was going to say before you ask where they can find us, I think for those who somehow don't know where to find Faber, he should be given the opportunity to tell everyone.
Yeah, you can find the podcast account for Canucks Convo at Canucks Convo, simply like that. My co-host, David Quadrelli, big shout out to him. He's 19 years old, but the work that he's doing is incredible. I love his writing. When I had all you guys on my show as a guest, actually, aside from Adam, and for reasons why you can see right here. But I think that having Quadrelli, I had him on 5 different times, and I loved hearing our conversations after. I loved it. In the back of my mind, when I had all these conversations on my show with people, if it was random Twitter folk or other podcasters like you guys, in the back of my mind, I was like, I want to find a co-host moving forward, and it just worked out so perfect that Quads and I can do this. We're in the same program. Just excited with the show moving forward because now I have a steady host, and you can listen at Canucks Combo.
Yeah, I just feel that we just got weighed, measured, and found wanting because he obviously had us on in an interview status, and we weren't good enough to join him as a co-host. All I remember.
Give it up.
The one time that I joined.
Stop trying to jump ship.
Yeah, no kidding. Could you sell yourself shamelessly?
No, don't worry. He wasn't going to take because the whole time it's like, man, the quality's bad, and then the lead up to the actual conversation on the episode, Faber's like, hey, so I have to apologize for the quality. I'm like, oh my goodness. See, I pretty much mailed it in. I pulled a mat and I bombed just because I wanted to stay here at C4.
Yeah, obviously.
But where everyone can find us, obviously, is already you're listening to us so awesome. Thank you for tuning in. I hope if you have enjoyed some of what we've been talking about, you might smash that subscribe button. We're in pretty much every major podcast application that you can darn well use. I make sure of that. I'm constantly doing the Lord's work here, trying to carry and pick up the slack of Matt. Thankfully, Anna is helping me out. I thought Adam might be able to help us too, but he never shows up. So what can we say?
That was one and done for him.
Yeah, he'll be back.
He's the Radim Vivada of the Canucks.
He'll be back in 2021.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for us online and you don't follow us yet, we're on Twitter at the C4 Podcast, Facebook.com/C4 Podcast. And if you ever want to email us, it's c4@canuckshockeyblog.com. So any final words of wisdom that you want to share with the millions and millions and millions of C4 listeners over there, Matt?
Just watch. I don't know about you guys. I scoreboard watch a lot more nowadays. Now that the Canucks are quote unquote in the hunt for the Pacific Division, and it's weird doing that right now in January. But it's weird that we're doing it at all this season, and I didn't think I'd be doing it. So scoreboard watching all week until the All-Star break.
Anna.
Yeah, I do find the scoreboard watching kind of funny because with the Pacific Division, it's going to change day by day. So, yeah. I think I'm happy to be first in the Pacific, but
it's like one loss is going to put us out of Pacific or playoff contention. It's crazy.
After that 7-game win streak, we lost one, we were out of the playoffs. So I won't count my chickens, that's for sure. But you know what? I'm weirdly excited about the All-Star break. I do enjoy the skills competition, so I'm going to be.
I heard Bieber is taking a shot on Jordan Binnington or something like that.
Yeah.
He needs to score that.
Oh my god!
For Canucks fans and Canadians,
I don't even know if I want this.
I know it's just like
I hope Bieber's song is yummy.
What?
Have you heard his new single?
No. And the fact that you even know that at your age.
No, you just take the word yum 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 yummy yummy yum 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 yummy.
Please don't.
Baby Force.
Listeners are going downhill at a dramatic pace right now.
Faber, final words.
I appreciate you guys having me on here. It's like I mentioned, I've listened to you guys for years. I think since you guys have been the host, I haven't heard any other hosts. Thank goodness I didn't have to listen to Clay which is good.
Who? Okay, I'd like to point out that I've been here from day one, and I'm kind of worried since you guys have been hosts. So, are you referring to Matt and Anna, and Chris is substandard?
Oh, no, Chris, I just missed it at the time. I told you I wasn't into podcasting until I worked at a mill. But yeah, I mean, I've listened to you guys for, it must be at least 3 years now. I think I've barely missed any episodes. I want to give you guys a quick shout out. The episode that I loved the most was the one right after the Sedin's retirement. I thought that was one of your guys' best episodes, and it was awesome hearing you guys' emotional conversations about that, and that was a lot of fun. So, just keep up the great work, and I'll be listening.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we are the longest-running Canucks hockey podcast
mediocre
in the market. Well, mediocre too, but yeah, we've
I'm
got
also good with. I'm from Canucks Army, so if you guys are mediocre, I'm all good with you guys.
It's funny. It's one thing that I noticed throughout the episode. You're actually saying now this podcast, this person, you don't understand how it drives Matt nuts to have the free ads because he's the strong company man. But it's an amazing time to be a Canucks fan. there is a ton of content out there being created. A lot of really good people. Like I remember when I spun up this podcast, Clay and I did so because there really wasn't much of anything else. Legion of Blog sort of had, and if you liked Legion of Blog back then, Trust the Process is the place to go. Yeah. But beyond that, there really wasn't anything consistent. And if there was one thing that I had no idea we would be as consistent as we are, that we're still around today. We got Pucks on Net beat by about a month. Yeah. So it sucks to be them. But on behalf of Matt Lee at @MattLee_61 and a Forsyth at @Forsyth03, Chris Faber at Chris Faber39, and the missing in action who may never show up again, Adam Cutter at AdamFOC. I am Chris Gold, not Life Force, signing off with those magical 2 words. We're out.